Good evening and welcome to EmoNews every moment online. Here are the headlines. Youth leadership takes center stage as NYCD election candidates revealed in Dominica. IRC and DOMLEC meet with commercial consumers on proposed tariff changes as public consultations continue. Dominica mourns former minister Ian Pinad as tributes pour in across political lines. Rhythm and Tides Beach Festival to debut at Antigua Sailing Week 2026. Man kills 7 of his children plus another child in shooting in Louisiana neighborhood. And Dominica crowned back-to-back Winlot Under-19 champions after thrilling victory over St. Vincent. Details of these stories and more coming up next. Stay with us.
Across our Caribbean, we're going digital, working smarter and living safer online.
In Dominica, we don't fall for fake prizes. We check before we click.
In Grenada, we verify before we share, keeping our hard-earned money safe from hackers.
In St. Lucia, we report cyberbullying, protecting our children and each other.
In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we report scams fast, protecting our neighbors and our communities.
Together, we're building a cyber-smart Caribbean, keeping our people and our data safe, standing up to scams and cybercrime. We stay connected, but always alert. This message is brought to you by the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Stay smart, stay safe. Think Card TP. Visit cardtpconnect.org.
Welcome back. I'm your presenter, Rick Francis, and this is the news broadcast for the 20th of April 2026. First up in local news. The Independent Regulatory Commission, IRC, and the Dominica Electricity Services Company, DOMLEC, met with commercial consumers of electricity on Friday as part of a series of ongoing meetings regarding the proposed tariff updates for DOMLEC. Here is IRC Director Justin Case as he explained some of the key features of the new tariff rates.
The key takeaways in this revised tariff process for DOMLEC. The first is lower and more stable costs. And this is primarily due to the geothermal, which reduces fuel exposure, the volatility to fuel price exposure. The second, we introduced a new tariff structure as we refer to it as the modernization of DOMLEC's tariff structure, as the old structure or the old volumetric structure has been around for over 50 years, and we believe that it must evolve with the energy mix. This new tariff structure introduces what we call time of use pricing, and TOU shows when electricity costs more and when it costs less.
Financial analyst at the IRC, Connie Joseph Louis, also addressed the meeting, speaking on the cost of service study and how this influenced the new rates.
Public consultation was done on those key aspects of the tariff process, and decisions and or provisional decisions were arrived at. Now, the final leg of the tariff process looks at the cost of service study and the rate design or the tariff design. Now, the cost of service study is more or less, it's a model used by the utility to determine how much it costs to provide electricity to customers. So you look at the actual cost to include your capex, your capital investment, like your property, plant and equipment that is on the grid, and all the operating costs incurred by the utility in supplying electricity to customer. This cost is then divided among the customer classes to determine how much each customer group costs the system to provide electricity to the users.
Meanwhile, Felix Julian, tariff review lead at DOMLEC, had this to say.
And since then, you would expect that there have been an increase in the cost of operation for DOMLEC, right? So that's basically 2 decades ago, and I don't think there's many or any business that 20 years ago, their cost hasn't changed from 20 years ago to now, and typically it's an increase. So the major events that happened since 2007, Hurricane Maria and the COVID pandemic. Hurricane Maria affected DOMLEC significantly. As you all remember, the entire system was basically damaged, flat on the ground, 95% thereabouts in terms of the external network was damaged. And one of the big costs that came out of that is insurance costs went up significantly. Our insurance costs went up by millions, which we pay every year. And also, there was a decision to be more resilient. So the class of poles in particular that we use, it's a better class of pole, it's a stronger pole, and we have built a more resilient system. And if you do that, then those costs go up as well.
Many consumers took the opportunity to ask questions and voice their concerns. There will be more meetings this week, and the IRC continues to encourage persons to participate fully in all meetings. Youth leadership in Dominica is taking center stage as candidates have officially unveiled their manifestos ahead of the upcoming National Youth Council of Dominica elections. A new president and executive team will be elected at the Council's General Assembly scheduled for May 16, 2026. The National Youth Council of Dominica serves as the recognized voice of young people under the age of 35, advocating on key issues such as human rights, youth empowerment, and climate action. Outgoing President Faye Lander is encouraging young people across the island to actively engage in the process, describing the elections as an opportunity to shape the future of youth leadership in Dominica.
Now is the time for young people to step forward, ask questions, and truly engage with the ideas being presented. This is more than an election. It is an opportunity to shape the direction of youth leadership and ensure that the voices of young people are represented with strength, clarity, and purpose. These elections are not just about positions, they are about purpose. The individuals elected, they will carry the responsibility of representing an entire generation, influencing policy, and building partnerships that drive meaningful change. I encourage every young person to take ownership of this moment and be part of the conversation.
2 candidates are contesting the presidency: Mr. Yannick Regis, president of the Pichelay Sports Club, and Mr. Luciano Devin Sherlock Dupuis, former deputy chair of the Caribbean Young Democratic Union, who's responsible for youth, training, outreach, and recruitment. Other executive positions are also being contested, including first and second vice presidents, chairman of the General Assembly, assistant secretary treasurer, and executive committee members, reflecting strong interest among young leaders. Notably, no nominations were received for the position of communications lead, and a resolution on the vacancy will be addressed at the General Assembly. Organizers say the elections represent more than leadership roles, but a chance for young people to influence national development and ensure their voices are heard. And the countdown is on for Jazz and Creole 2026, with cash prizes to be won at the event. The National Bank of Dominica is once again the premier bank sponsor for this year's edition of Jazz and Creole. Now, let's hear from Marketing Manager at the National Bank of Dominica, Michelle Joseph.
Jazz and Creole holds a powerful and distinctive place in Dominica's cultural calendar. It is where heritage meets rhythm, where creativity becomes commerce, and where Dominican excellence takes center stage. For NBD, supporting Jazz and Creole is not simply about presence, It is about purposeful investment in culture, community, and the country.
Joseph explained that this sponsorship aligns with the bank's commitment to national development and support for small enterprises.
This partnership directly reflects our commitment to environmental, social, and governance principles, because through Jazz and Creole, we support sustainable tourism, cultural preservation, and community-driven economic activity, all essential pillars for long-term national development. At the heart of this festival are micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and NBD is proud to work alongside them. In support of our commitment to MSMEs, our Jazz and Creole engagement includes collaboration with local businesses such as South Trucking, Infinity Media, Queen to Queen Makeup Services, Crystal's Touch, Beauty by Angie, M's Prominent Designs, and Crown Images.
She also announced that there will be cash prizes to be won at the event.
Participants who engage with us will be entered to win exciting cash prizes, because financial education should also be fun and rewarding. I heard that, amen.
And finally, in local news, there has been an outpouring of condolences from the government and political parties in Dominica following the passing of former Minister Ian Pinad, who died on April 17, 2026. The government of Dominica described Pinad as a distinguished public servant who served as a parliamentary representative for the Soufriere constituency and held key roles, including parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Education and Minister for Public Works and Ports. Officials highlighted his significant contribution to national infrastructure development and his continued service in executive positions, including at Petrocaribe Dominica and as Chief Executive Officer of the Dominica Air and Seaports Authority at the time of his passing. The United Progressive Party also extended heartfelt condolences, noting that Pinad's dedication to national service transcended political lines and emphasizing his continued commitment to national development in his most recent role at DASPA. Meanwhile, the Dominica Labour Party paid tribute to Pinad as a loyal and humble servant who made significant contributions both in government and within the party. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit described him as a man of quiet strength and deep compassion, whose legacy will endure through the lives he touched. Across the political spectrum, leaders have united in honoring Ian Pinad's life of service, extending condolences to his family, friends, and the people of the Soufriere constituency. EmoNews extends deepest condolences to the family and friends of Ian Pinad. And that's all for local news this evening. Stay tuned for regional news coming up next. And taking a look at regional news this evening, Antigua Sailing Week is set to bring us new wave of energy to its 2026 calendar with the launch of Rhythm and Tides, a vibrant beachside celebration scheduled for April 25th at the Fairs Beach. The daytime event, taking place on the third day of the island's 4-day sailing circumnavigation, promises a unique fusion of sailing, music, and Caribbean culture. Organizers say the experience is inspired by the region's growing underwater lifestyle scene, blending beach vibes with world-class sailing. Set against the backdrop of turquoise waters and white sandy shores, patrons can expect live entertainment, DJ music, local food vendors, interactive beach games, and refreshing drinks, creating an authentic Antiguan atmosphere from noon into the early evening. The event is supported by major sponsors, including Heineken and Yamaha, whose partnership aims to elevate Rhythm and Tides into a signature feature of Antigua Sailing Week. Organizers are also inviting members of the boating community to join the celebration, encouraging powerboats and party vessels to anchor offshore and enjoy the festivities from the water as music carries across the bay. Rhythm and Tides is open to sailing participants, spectators, and the general public, with additional details on programming and access expected to be announced soon. And finally, in regional news, police in Trinidad and Tobago have arrested a municipal police officer in connection with the killing of a fellow officer and the theft of firearms from a police facility. According to reports, 28-year-old municipal police officer Jivan Cooper is in custody and has been identified as the alleged mastermind behind the murder of Anusha Eversley. Authorities say the incident also involved the theft of a cache of high-powered firearms and ammunition from a police station. While investigations are ongoing, officials believe the heist specifically targeted weapons. The country's prime minister has strongly condemned the act, describing it as a serious internal betrayal within the security forces. Police have since detained 2 additional suspects in Claxton Bay, and a portion of the stolen weapons have been recovered. However, operations continue as officers search for the remaining firearms. The incident has triggered an urgent review of security protocols within the municipal police service as authorities seek to determine how such a breach was carried out. And that's all for regional news this evening. Stay tuned for international news coming up next.
Blast Gaming presents its biggest job whatever. Blast Mystery Progressive. I'm so excited. I can't hide it. The new Blast Jackpot rising. And I like it. It going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up and up and up and up.
Play selected games to win in the Blast Mystery Progressive. Pick until you match 3 gems and win one of the 5 cash jackpots. Or you can blast up with the Mystery Progressive jackpot.
It going up and up and up and up and up. Blast up and up and up. Blast Gaming.
And now for international news. A powerful earthquake has struck off the northeastern coast of Japan, prompting tsunami warnings and emergency response measures across several regions. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency and the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake measured between 7.4 and 7.5 in magnitude and occurred off the east coast of Honshu. Authorities issued a tsunami warning of up to 3 meters for coastal areas, including Aiwate Prefecture, as well as parts of Hokkaido and Amori. Other areas in northeastern Japan remain under advisory, with waves of up to 1 meter expected. Initial reports indicate that tsunami waves have already reached parts of the coastline, including a 0.8 meter wave at Kuji Port and a 0.4 meter wave at Miyako Port, with water levels still rising in some locations. Prime Minister Sanae Takashi has urged residents in affected areas to evacuate immediately to higher ground, as emergency teams work to assess damage and carry out response operations. The quake was strongly felt in the capital, Tokyo, where buildings reportedly shook for several minutes. Transport services have been disrupted, with bullet train operations and several rail lines suspended due to power outages. Officials have confirmed that there are no abnormalities at nuclear facilities, including Fukushima, and radiation levels remain within normal limits. Japan, located along the seismically active Pacific Ring of Fire, is highly prone to earthquakes, and authorities continue to closely monitor the situation as updates unfold. Also in international news, authorities in the United States have identified 8 young children who were tragically shot and killed in a devastating incident in Louisiana. Police report that the children, aged between 3 and 11 years old, were killed early Sunday morning in what has been described as a domestic-related mass shooting. The gunman, identified as 31-year-old Shama Elkins, is said to have fatally shot his 7 children and a relative, while also critically injuring 2 women, including his wife. According to investigators, the attacks occurred across 2 locations before the suspect fled in a carjacked vehicle. He was later pursued by police into a neighboring parish, where he was shot and killed by law enforcement officers. Officials say the motive remains under investigations, though early indications suggest the incident stemmed from domestic issues. A 13-year-old boy managed to escape during the attack and is expected to recover from his injuries. Local authorities have described the tragedy as one of the worst incidents in the city's history, with community leaders calling for support and unity in the wake of the devastating loss. A candlelight vigil was held Sunday evening, where grieving residents gathered to honor the victims and support the affected families. And finally, in international news, Palestinian children have staged a protest calling for safe access to education amid ongoing restrictions in the occupied territory. The students demonstrated against Israeli settlers and troops who they say have been blocking the only safe route to their school. The situation has disrupted daily access to classes, forcing both students and teachers to navigate significant challenges. Despite the barriers, teachers continued lessons near the restricted areas as students and parents voiced their concerns and appealed for their right to education. Residents say the protest highlights the broader difficulties faced by communities in the West Bank, where access to basic services, including schooling, is often affected by ongoing tensions. The demonstration underscores growing calls for the protection of children's rights and uninterrupted access to education in conflict-affected areas. And that's all for international news this evening. Stay tuned for the sports segment coming up next.
Tico, that's $800. Cash or card?
When cash is low, Tico is still ready.
Always card, Chalo. Would you like a copy of the receipt?
No, Chalo. NBD already sent me the alert and I'll see it on Mo Banking later. That is it. From card to farm. Power your business with the NBD Small Business Credit Card. Your partner, your bank.
And now for the sports segment. Barbados pride batter Kevin Wickham is honoring his late father with every run he scores, turning personal loss into standout performances on the cricket field. The 23-year-old recently made history as the 3rd Barbadian this century to score twin centuries in a regional match. He delivered a commanding 153 runs against the Jamaica Scorpions, followed by an unbeaten 108. Wickham says returning to cricket after his father's passing was mentally challenging, but support from his teammates helped him to refocus. Now building a strong reputation, he remains driven to succeed while carrying his father's legacy with him every time he steps onto the field. In secondary schools basketball action, St. Mary's Academy delivered a dominant performance against Northeast Comprehensive School in the boys' division at Massac on Friday. St. Mary's Academy secured a convincing 73-49 victory over NECS. Leading the scoring for SMA were Mariano Blah with 26 points and Dylan Grant, who added 13 points. For Northeast Comprehensive School, Edward Pollock led with 12 points, while Jay Samuel contributed 10. The win highlights a strong showing from St. Mary's Academy as the secondary school basketball competition continues. With more basketball news, Dominica State College delivered a commanding performance against Pierre Charles Secondary School in the boys' division at WPSS. DSC dominated the matchup, securing a decisive 91-45 victory over PCSS. Leading the charge for DSC was Nigel George with an impressive 27 points, followed closely by Komar Telemark with 24 points and Zachary Julian, who added 20 points. For PCSS, Kieron Henderson led his team with 15 points. The result highlights Dominica State College's strong form as the secondary school's basketball championship continues. And finally, in sports, Dominica secured back-to-back titles at the Windward Islands Under-19 cricket tournament with a 22-run victory over St. Vincent and the Grenadines at Benjamin's Park. All-rounder Eugenio Fontaine led the way, securing 35 runs and taking 4 for 40 as Dominica posted 143 and bowled out their opponents for 121. They followed up on Sunday with a 63-run win in a rain-affected match, making 170 for 8 before restricting St. Vincent and the Grenadines to 107. The victories underline a bright future for Dominica's youth cricket, with strong all-round performances securing the 2026 championship title. And that's all for the sports segment this evening. Stay tuned for the weather report coming up next. And this brings us to the end of tonight's news broadcast for the 20th of April 2026. I'm your presenter, Rick Francis. On behalf of the entire newscast, we say thank you for viewing. This is Emo Nightly News, every moment online. Good night.